And we are live. Welcome everyone to the Feel Inspired podcast, episode 58 with the beautiful, the wonderful Andrea LaRosa. I'll be introducing her more in a little while and let her give her own introduction. But just a huge welcome to you all. It's British summertime. It's very hot here and muggy, but the show must go on no matter what. Welcome to any new listeners, new viewers. The Feel Inspired podcast is all about that, helping people feel inspired. Today and recently, we've been talking a lot about dating, and because I think it's such an important subject, especially in this day and age with, swipe dating, app dating, so much gender bashing going on online. And, it's a tough battle for most people. So my prime purpose is to help you navigate it a little bit easier, and this is why I love having wonderful guests on, like this lovely lady Andrea LaRosa, who's on the West Coast right now as well. She's up nice and early to join me for the podcast. So can I just say welcome, Andrea? It's a pleasure to have you on the Feel Inspired podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you.
And as always, I mean, we don't actually know each other. We've had a brief chat on Messenger, and that is literally it. So I have no idea about your history or anything. So I'd love to know. Tell us your story. Like, how did you fall into this line of work? What made you decide to become a dating expert and coach?
Well, first of all, I commend you for having me on, not knowing any of my background. I could be some hot mess.
best way, really, best way.
So believe it or not, actually, I've not been in this field for very long. It's probably going on maybe 6 years now. I used to be in the film industry as a film producer, living in England, actually.
Oh yeah, of course you were in Bath, right?
Yeah. And so when I moved back to the States, I realized I didn't want to stay in that career. I wanted to do something to help people. And long story short, I went to a speed dating event here. Loved it. It was a hot mess. I reached out to the organizer and asked, hey, with my producing background, doing events is something that I'm really good at. Can I help you with your next one? No charge. I just want to be of service. Why I'm trying to figure out what the heck I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I realized, wow, this is a lot of fun. So I started my business by doing local speed dating, lock and key parties, single events, and then eventually went back to school and got certified in NLP, life coaching, relationship coaching, all the things, and have kind of just let the business take a life of its own since then. So here I am now, 6 years later, coaching, doing matchmaking, doing all of the things.
No, that is a big change though from film production to dating and relationships. That's
Oh,
a
it's
big change.
enormous.
Yeah, that's a huge change of career. Like, I mean, when you went to this event and stuff, I mean, aside from that, are you, by the way, are you single right now and actively dating? Were you with someone?
I am currently single. When I first started my business, I was with someone. We were in a long-term relationship and it didn't work out. And now I am single and not actively dating simply because as a dating coach, dating is a lot more challenging. A lot of times people will come to me and be like, well, you're a dating coach. Shouldn't you be in the healthiest of relationships? And you know what I tell them? I am. I'm in an extremely healthy relationship with myself and with the people around me, but it doesn't mean I have to be in an intimate partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're happy being single, more power to you as well. But I do ask people that question. I do say to them, are you genuinely happy? And that's the main thing. I think there are some people, I mean, would you agree with me? Because I think when I have this conversation with some people, and I don't mean to judge them, but I've been doing this a long time, and you can tell who are the genuinely happy ones versus those who are genuinely just trying to convince themselves they're happy. And again, I don't want to offend anyone because we're all going through our own journey, but it's true, and you've got to be healthily in love with yourself. True or false?
It's very true. I think that you can't give to someone else, you can't give to a relationship if you don't give to yourself, if you don't have the energy initially, which is why self-care is so important. You have to be able to know who you are and what you have to offer to a relationship. And yeah, I am genuinely happy. Would I like to be in a relationship? Of course I would. I have a lot to offer to a partnership. It's been extremely challenging to find that partnership being single and a dating coach and being an expert, men often get slightly intimidated by
Yeah.
the coach.
Do you know what? And I would have to say that I agree with you 100%. Whereas I think when I was single and dating, women found out I was a dating coach, they were actually really intrigued. But I've noticed that you're not the first female dating coach to say this to me, that when guys find out a woman is a dating coach,
Mhm.
they feel a little bit intimidated.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is?
I think it's
Landmine, avoid.
It yeah, I think men are just really afraid that they're gonna be judged, and they don't realize that as a dating coach, I'm actually going to be the exact opposite. I'm not gonna judge you. I'm gonna actually be more open and more understanding. I'm able to read body language a little bit better than the average female because I'm trained to. And I'm going to be very forgiving because I know on a first date, you're gonna be really nervous. And so I'm not going to judge you based on that. And I'm going to be more open to a second date as long as there's no massive red flags.
Yeah, I got to tell you a story as well, and I think this is something I'm trying to share with people more and more. So I wrote a blog about this, but also that was regarding some previous couples. But even recently, my wife and I were at an engagement party. So the couple who are engaged are admins of ours on our Facebook singles group. So they met on there as well. So we forced them to do a live about 4 years ago. It was a bit of a train wreck. Don't tell them I said that. but what happened was after they did the live, they were on the live like, "Hello, are we live?" kind of thing, because they'd never done one before, so they weren't used to
Oh,
speaking live. But anyway, so after it happened, they ended up speaking with each other on WhatsApp, and the rest is history. They're engaged now, probably going to get
oh,
married next year. But my wife and I were in the engagement party. We were there a few weeks ago, and I even said to my wife, "Do you know what? Even I feel a bit rusty just communicating with people, speaking, flirty conversation, all of the rest of it, playful banter." So I said, "Look, let's not leave until we've at least spoken to a good bunch of people, and then we'll go home." And she was like, "Cool, down for it. Let's go." So we met this one couple, and they also met same year as me and my wife, 2015. So we asked them, we said, "Okay, so tell us the story. How did you meet? How did it happen?" And her answer was hilarious. She said, "Look, after the first day, I didn't like him at all." And we were like, "Okay, so how did it continue then?" And she said, "I just realized, by the way, I'm just going to do one thing. This is probably terrible of me to do this midway. There you go. Then my logo's actually on me."
yeah, that makes more sense.
I was going to say, your name's not Amit. Um, then, so we asked, "Okay, so how did it lead to a second date?" Well, she said, "Well, do you know what? My dad was out of town and I was just hungry, so I just went for the food." that was her, that was her thing. But wasn't it
Oh my
interesting that
gosh.
she went for this second date? And after the second date, she actually liked him, and the rest is history. They got married, they have a kid. And then I bumped into an ex-coaching client of mine as well. She was there, got chatting casually. I said, "How's it all going?" She said, I've been with someone for 6 months." And I was like, "Tell us a story." And she said the same thing. Didn't like him after the first date. After the second date, I was like, "Actually, he's quite kind of nice." And it just goes to show that actually exactly what you said, right? Everyone is a little bit nervous, a little bit on edge, a little bit hesitant at the very beginning. And we need to be more forgiving of that. Obviously, caveat being, unless they completely screw it up and call you fat in the worst way possible, then that's a different
Right.
story altogether. But in the beginning, I think everyone deserves a little bit of it. If you, the way I describe it to people, if you leave indifferent, it's worth a second date.
I agree. I think that we need to be a little bit more open to the type that we're looking for. We also get to a certain age and get a little bit stuck in our expectations. And so when you are looking at a first date, you have to remember that you don't know anything about this person and you can't make assumptions about them, right? Which is why I always suggest when you are on a dating app on any of those sites that you get off it as soon as possible and have a face to face, even if it's a Zoom or a video chat style face to face. But you need to hear tone, you need to see body language, you need to see facial expressions. Then you can know, okay, I think this is a genuinely nice person. I'd like to get to know them a little bit better. You're not getting married after the first date. There's no ring on it. You're not having babies with this person. It's just a date. It's just to get to know someone to see if there's compatibility there.
Exactly, so true. I say this to everyone, right? So I have a rule. I say to anyone I'm coaching that your goal should be to get their number, get off the app within 15 minutes. It's a bit arbitrary, but it's something to aim towards. So I got my wife's number within 5 minutes, right? So that was kind of like one of my records at the time, but it just didn't make sense to me to speak online. I mean, most people end up kind of in just small talk, not actually really getting to know each other, getting, forming a true connection, right?
Absolutely, because you're creating this fake persona of the person. You see a few pictures, they send a few messages, and in your head, you've created what you think they're like. And then when you meet them, I guarantee you they'll disappoint because no one is going to match this fake person you've just made up in your head. And then you don't want a second date because you think, well, you're not who I thought you were.
Yeah, so true, so true. So, can I slightly funny question, but I've got to ask, right? With since you've been doing this line of work, and since you've been, I'm sure you have been on dates. So, have you ever kind of been on a date with someone in the back of your head, you're thinking, I need to coach this individual. I really need to.
Probably about 70% of my dates. And to be fair, I did include some of them in my book. I did share some of my disaster dates because I thought, you know what? Why not make this a little personal as well? And let me share some of those that I just sit there going, I really need to coach you.
Oh yeah, you have to, right? Can you are you able to share? And please tell us about your book as well. But can you share at least one of those stories, one of your disaster dates, and what happened?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll tell you one that's actually in the book. I was on a lunch date with this guy who you could tell he was very nervous, and I was trying to kind of put him at ease. And I know that's not my job on a date. It's my job as a coach, but not as a date. But I knew there wasn't going to be any kind of long-term interest with him because, for one, what he presented on the app isn't what showed up in front of me, which is pretty standard. It happens a lot. But he decided to show me his tattoo on his arm. It was like a little leprechaun, and he was flexing. He lifts up his sleeve, he flexes his arm multiple times, and he was like, "Look, my leprechaun can dance." And the server that we had was walking behind him and just busted out laughing. Like, another employee heard, busted out laughing, and I tried so hard to stay calm. And I was like, "Really? Did you for real?" Like, he stood up and made a huge spectacle of himself in the middle of this restaurant, making this leprechaun tattoo dance on his arm. And I just wanted to be like, "No, I'm done. Forget lunch. I'm going home."
I love that. That's brilliant. Oh my god. I'm guessing he didn't kind of get the euphemism there at all either as well. So I think, yeah, yeah. No,
No,
fair enough.
clueless.
Yeah, I think you could be very indifferent to that. But that's fascinating. Like just to hear your experience because obviously I've been out in the dating scene for a long time, and there's a part of me that would love to just go out there for a couple of days. Obviously, not cheating on my wife or anything, but just to see
Right.
what people are like, right? Just to see what people are like, and um, it's funny. Like the few singles events we've had recently, I've had a chance to. We've had like about close to 200 people that I've been seeing over the last month, and some people are fantastic and able to speak to people very easily, and then some people really struggle. I was hosting a singles event on the weekend, and I saw we ended on a speed date, so it was a variety of things, variety of activities, and then we ended doing a speed date, and I just saw one or two guys sitting opposite the lady and just not even saying a word, and I just kind of felt
Oh,
really bad for them, and bad for the lady, but bad for them because I don't know, is it because they struggle with it? Is it because they um just feel nervous, feel shy, or run out of things to say. And it's not their fault. It's one of these things I always say to people, no one ever teaches us dating. No one's ever really told us how to do it. Don't feel bad if you're not very good at it because I've got to be honest, I'll put my hand up. I was one of the worst at one point, but it is a learnable or a teachable skill. So you don't have to worry. But yeah, so by the way, just tell everyone about what's your book called, just so we know. Well, we'll mention it again at the end, but just curious.
it's called Get the Girl. Dating the High Value Woman. So it is designed for both men and women. It's kind of a how-to for men, and a how-to as well for women to understand when you are that high value woman, how to represent yourself, how to be in your feminine energy. I think a lot of women like myself, we really struggle with that balance of, our work ambition, our career ambitions, and finding that feminine energy for when we are dating again, because you do need to have that balance. But most women like myself, when we have high powered jobs and we are very career oriented, we have to be in our masculine energy in order to succeed in business nowadays. But we forget to kind of pop back into that feminine energy when it comes to our dating and intimate relationships.
Ah, so true. And that nicely leads on to my next question as well. So I was actually going to ask as well, do you coach both men and women? And if so, which do you prefer? But also, what do you think are some of the biggest things that people do as dating mistakes in this day and age?
Oh my goodness.
Where do I get the list out?
Wait, where's the list? There's the list. How much time do we have?
Longer than the Pfizer docs of 80,000 pages, probably.
Right. I coach mostly men. I have for years coached mostly men one on one. Excuse me. But what I've realized recently is I've actually gone back to group coaching with women because I've learned so much about men and what they're looking for, and what they present is not really authentic. Men will present this very macho male idea that they think they're supposed to be, but really they're very sensitive, actually. They're way more sensitive than women are aware of. And so I do feel like I've had like this inside scoop for the past 6 years of how men operate, how they think, how they behave. So I kind of want to go back and share that now with women. So I am starting to coach women again, in a group coach setting.
It's
Um,
funny. It's funny you say that as well. Just I didn't want to interrupt you too much, but I just had to drop this in as well. I think people don't realize this enough. I mean, I'm 6'3", so I'm quite a tall guy. The singles event I was just doing on Sunday, there's quite a few other tall guys there as well, and it's in my blood that I will straighten my back a little bit more, puff out my chest a little bit. But the thing is, what people don't realize, it's innate. It's not something I can control most of the time unless I'm in a really spiritually high vibe. But it's just something we do. It's a masculine thing that is about it's almost a competitive thing, not like I
yeah.
must beat you, but it is just a competitive thing. It's part of the masculine identity that I've got to show that I'm, a viable
Yeah.
prospect, and that's what it is. And most people don't realize that.
Peacocking.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Peacocking, exactly that. Yeah, and it's just part of who I am. But you're right. On a first date, there is always going to be an element of bravado that the guy is going to bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that's happening right now is that men and women are not communicating on the same level. They're not going in being authentic, being genuine. The biggest mistake I see men making right now is they're forgetting that, you can't suggest an adventure date for a first date with a woman. She has to think about her safety first. And
Mm.
men need to start being reminded that, you can easily overpower a woman. So she is going to go on a first date with this safety concern. And any man who can go on that first date or even start a conversation with her safety at the forefront of the conversation, you're already a shoo-in,
Hmm.
because it's sexy when a guy can come to the table and say, "Look, I want you to feel comfortable, what would you like to do? Where would you like to meet? What would make you feel more comfortable and safe?" Oh my goodness. That would be
Hmm.
so impressive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What a great line. It's true. It's true though as well, right? It just shows because it looks like he cares about her feelings, of course, as well. So it's
Right.
perfect. What a great line. I love that.
It's important. It's important for women to feel that we are being acknowledged as women, and it allows us to be a little bit more feminine too, because he's kind of saying, I want you to feel feminine. You don't need to be in your masculine energy, because that's what often happens. Women feel that they have to be on guard. You know, first dates should be really casual, really fun and light, and should be comfortable. So, doing a coffee date in a crowded cafe, or, meeting in a park that's has other people around that you can feel comfortable and safe in, whatever works. But just make sure that you both are feeling very comfortable and you can be very authentic to your true selves.
I love hearing you say that because this is exactly what I say to people. Park or coffee? I mean, come on, you just can't go wrong with either, really, to be honest, right? If it's a
Yeah.
coffee date and it's not going well, it's very easy to cut it short. If you're going for a park, it's just a nice romantic place to be. And so my wife and I first date park.
Nice.
And yeah, and it was around there's a beautiful park near us. It's called Black Park, and it's gorgeous. And I do park run there on Saturday mornings as well. But it's like you're not in the UK at all. It actually, to me, when I go there, I feel like I'm in Canada or somewhere. Beautiful big trees, pine trees, all the rest of it. It's just beautiful park. So that's where we went for our first date. And my wife we had a great time. We ended up just walking and talking for about 2 hours, and the rest is history. So obviously something worked, right? But I think people underestimate the power of simplicity in a first date. They think they have to go
Yes,
big, grand, a big expensive dinner. And I'm like, but what if you don't like this person? This is what burns people
exactly.
out is you put too much stock in the first date, but not enough afterwards. But all those first dates that don't work out, eventually they just, weigh you down.
And men are getting very frustrated picking up the tab. I don't know how it is in other parts of the world right now as far as like a dinner date, but in California, it is extremely expensive. You're looking
Yeah.
at at least $100.
Mm,
And to drop $100 to $150 for a dinner date on a first date constantly, if you're trying to do 1 or 2 dates per week, that is an investment,
mm.
and not a
Yeah,
very wise
it's a lot
investment.
of money. There was a point in time when I was doing 3 dates a week. I mean, that would have equated to, I mean, even then as well, let's say it was £50, that's 150, that's for, 600 a month just on dates alone. Like, I was on low money at that point in time. There's no way I could afford that. That's where I came with the whole idea of having, coffee dates. At least I saved a bit of money. Um, but it's true. I think simple is best either way anyway, because, and the other thing I say to people about dinner is, do you really want to be talking to the date going, spinach in your teeth and I don't think it's a great look for most people. So, I think it's a good idea to go for an ice cream, go for a coffee, but, do something different. I remember I met one day and we just went for a walk around London. I mean, I've done that 100 times, but
Mm.
it's different when you're with a different person. We went and climbed the lions and Trafalgar Square and, all sorts. And it was just a nice, pleasant, lovely day. And she had a good time as well. And I think simple things tend to work the best.
And it allows you to keep it short. Your first date shouldn't be this big experience. It shouldn't be a 6 hour long date. Now, granted, do those happen? Of course, those happen when you're really enjoying someone's company. But honestly, and you and I have talked a little bit with some other fellow coaches about micro dating.
Yeah. Mm.
These mini dates, these really, really short lived dates, either via video chats or in person. But a first date doesn't need to be anything extravagant. It doesn't need to be extremely long. There's nothing wrong with leaving the other person wanting more of your time, more of your attention, curious about who you are. I don't see anything wrong with that.
And that's the powerful soundbite, isn't it? Leave them wanting more. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think this is where the micro dating is actually a really powerful thing. I've just made a note of the time there as well, so I can do a little a little soundbite of that. But it's true though. I think you want to leave your date wanting more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
didn't
I
that
mean,
happen for you?
I mean, every single date they all wanted more of me. I mean, that's just a given. Hello, hello, Andrea, hello. No, but yeah, no, I think I would do that. Sometimes I will say to guys, cut off the date when it's going really well. I know it's very
Mhm.
hard to do, and it seems a bit unnatural to do that. And it is in one sense, yes. But I think to myself, look, the thing is, if you the way I see it is if you spill your guts, a London phrase on the first date, in 6 hours, 10 hours, however long you may end up having a date, sometimes I find a lot of people come to me and say, I've run out of things to say on a second date. Well, how long was the first date? 6 hours? Yeah, well, no wonder. You kind of told them
Yeah.
your life story on a first date, and it's no wonder you've run out of things to say.
Hmm.
Like you said, I don't think a first date should be more than 1 to 2 hours maximum.
I agree.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
matter how good it's going as well, just cut it off and use that as a reason to have a second date. Say to them, "Do you know, I'm loving this and I've got so much more to tell you, but let's save it for next time." And and to emphasize there's gonna be a next time as well. That's your in, that's the in for both, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I always tell my clients when your coffee is empty, it's time to go.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. That's a good one. What about on the other side, by the way? So from ladies as well, what are some of the biggest mistakes you're seeing on that side? I know you mentioned about the kind of femininity. I think that's a big thing. But the other thing, I don't know about if you agree with this, and it is that especially with TikTok around, right? You know, there's
Mm,
a lot of gender bashing that goes on there as well, as we probably all know. Anyone who's on TikTok will probably see it, I'm sure.
hmm.
And I think we put too much stock in all of that information that flies in front of our face, and then people end up creating that experience for themselves. You know, if you're in that vibe, if you're in that space, and you end if that's all you're thinking about, and then you wonder why it's happening to you, well, hello, that is exactly what the law of attraction is. You are manifesting the experience if you keep dwelling on it. And I think that that's people are putting too much stock in this information they see.
Oh, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I tell them all the time, what you resist will persist. You keep attracting more of what you don't want because your focus is on what you don't want. Instead, let's focus on what you do want. What does a healthy relationship feel like for you? And start visualizing that and start attracting that. Go for that kind of relationship. And for a lot of people, that really changes. It's not their typical ideal partner that they thought they had in their head. It ends up looking very different for them. For example, some ladies will want somebody who's tall and they're getting stuck on this tall, broad-shouldered
Mm,
guy, and then they realize, actually, it doesn't matter how tall he is or how
mm,
broad-shouldered or how, what color his hair is. Actually, what I do care about is the fact that he is a kind person. We have similar values. We're compatible in our lifestyle. We have good chemistry. All of these other things that will sustain a long-term relationship, not just that I'm attracted to him right now in the moment.
yeah, no, it's so true, and that's a big thing as well, the height thing. But then again, as well, guys, when it comes to body types and things like that, I know this one guy, and he's kind of fixated on a particular celebrity, and he wants his woman to look like that. And I've tried reminding him, remember, you're just seeing a version of her, that's done nice and proper. Like, I've got to be honest, the celebrity he's talking about, when I see her not with makeup on, I'm like, she looks like an average woman to me. Like, she doesn't look like anyone special. And it's not an offense to her. It's just that I think he's bought
Because
into this
she
idea of,
is.
yeah, I
She's an
mean,
average person.
exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's beautifully average as well, right? But it's like, I just think that some people fixate on one thing that they have to have, and that becomes their
Mm,
main checkbox. And if I don't get this, and then they're definitely not for me. And it goes back to this what I said at the beginning, that sometimes you give, like, I've lost count the amount of times people have come and said to me, the person I'm with, they weren't my usual type. I've
mhm.
lost count of that, and it's so
Yes.
often. Um, and the reason they're in this position is because they gave someone a chance who wasn't their type. And
Mhm.
because they did that, they're with their forever person. And so, to be fixated on one external quality, I mean, don't get me wrong, we all have a nice to have list, but to be fixated on it, it just doesn't do us or you any favors, does it at all?
No.
Do you come
No,
across
not at
people like
all.
that who are just, I must have this?
Yeah, they get a little fixated on the exterior, which is why we do so much work on the interior.
Mm,
What are the values you're really looking for in a partner? What are the attributes that are the most important? A lot of times with my clients, I ask them to just list out everything, just get it all out on paper, from head to toe, inside, outside, all of the things. But then I tell them, now I want you to pick only 5 of those things that you can have in a partner. 5 of those qualities that are the most important. And you know what never makes it to that list? The exterior.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good way of doing it. I love that. That's a brilliant example. Has it been your experience like mine where you speak to people and it seems like everyone has certain pieces of the puzzle, but for most people they just don't know how to put it together? And have you kind of come across anyone where you've helped them and you've just dropped one or two diamond bits of wisdom and then the light bulb pops for them and they're like, whoa, I get it now. And it's kind of changed their entire outlook and also the results they've got.
Yeah, and it's funny because when that does happen, and I'm sure you've experienced this, where you sit back and you drop like one little comment and it just clicks for them, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden the pieces line up, and you're like, "Uh-oh, what do I do now?" Like, you don't need me now. It just like all aligned for you. Well, I'll just be here to support you, I guess.
Well, that's the first 15 minutes of coaching, right? Only 5 hours,
Right.
45 minutes to go now.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, it's rare that it happens that fast, but when it does, it's beautiful to see. It
Mm,
really, that's why I got into coaching because it was so amazing to watch my clients grow and be their most authentic self and have confidence. For a lot of the guys that I coach, they really lack confidence. And they're turning to the dating games, the pickup artist games. And that's not going to get you the relationship that you want to be in long term. It might get you a toxic partnership because you're playing games, you're not being
mm.
true to yourself. And so a lot of them need to learn some confidence. And once they do, and they learn just a few little tricks, wow, do they blossom quickly. And it's just really lovely to see that transformation happen and to watch them get into these really beautiful relationships with a partner, whether it's with a woman or with a man. I coach both. And so, it's just nice to know that you're helping someone be a better version of themselves and to create this life that they really long for. It's amazing.
It's a beautiful thing, right? Give an example of something you think that guys often do, which is kind of like from the pickup artist book, versus what they could be doing from a place of self worth, self confidence. What's something that you see often and you think that guys do and they try to use, but actually there's a better way by just learning to believe in themselves.
Negging. It
Yeah,
drives
yeah.
me absolutely ballistic. The guys out there using negging, and for those who aren't aware of what negging is, because it's not to be confused with nagging,
Yeah.
negging as in giving a backhanded compliment. When a guy says to a woman, you're so beautiful, you're so amazing, why are you still single? w- why do you guys say this? Why? Keep your
Mm,
mouth shut. Just
yeah.
stop with you're so smart and beautiful. End of compliment. you know
And then what about what to do instead?
Stop. Give her the compliment. Be genuine. You're beautiful and you're smart and I'm so happy to be getting to know you.
So
End of
simple,
compliment.
so
Right.
true. Yeah. And it's how it's done, isn't it, as well? I think that if they kind of do it a little bit, would you say that like would you say this? Because I find this as well. Like for example, there are guys who will overuse the compliments. And then sometimes for a woman, in fact, not sometimes, most of the time, that becomes overbearing and too much.
Mhm.
And I think I say to guys, one compliment at most on the date is more than enough. But you don't use it as a tool. If it's something genuine you see in her, if you think her, like one something I complimented my wife on, I remember this really well. I actually said to her, I said, I've got to admit, you've got the most perfect eyebrows I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And, she does. She's always taken pride in her eyebrows and everything as well. And but that came from, I genuinely meant that. Like, I didn't just say, oh, you look beautiful for the sake of looking beautiful. I noticed something specific and, it was quite striking to me. And I think that when it comes from somewhere which is quite genuine, then women appreciate it. But if you're sitting there just saying to her, every 5 minutes, "Oh, you look so beautiful, you look so nice," I'm just floored by your beauty, she's just going to get uncomfortable.
Extremely uncomfortable because at that point, it sounds like you're just interested in sex
Hmm.
and you're only interested in her beauty, her body, her looks, and nothing more than that. So for a lot of women, that's actually that point in the date where she kind of becomes very uncomfortable, starts checking her surroundings, seeing how to keep herself in a safe position. So men really need to be aware that what you say and what you do is very different with a woman than it is with, a buddy or a coworker. She's really, again, we're back to the safety concern. She is making sure that she is staying safe, and it's unfortunate that we live in that type of world now, but we do, and it's a reality. And I don't know if it's ever going to change, but, and I'm not saying it's the man's responsibility, but having that awareness, if you really want to be in a good relationship, if you can go into a date with that awareness of, I need to be genuine. I need to think of her and I need to be genuine. I really truly believe that when you start dating, you need to be aware of what you can give to a relationship, not what you're going to get out of it. You will get something out of it, but if
Yeah.
you're more focused on what you're giving, then you're going to find the right partner and you're going to do it probably a lot faster.
Yeah. And you mentioned about safety, and I even say this to guys as well, to everyone. And I'm surprised at how many people don't do this. Just tell someone who you're with, where you're going. Like a guy or lady,
Yeah.
just I think in this day and age, just why take chances? Like even I remember again very early on, my wife said to me, "I'm going to Google you." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh no, no." I was like, "Good luck, go for it. You're gonna love some of the stuff you're gonna see about me." And but it's not a problem to me. But the thing is, I admired her for taking the, being, prudent and just doing the Google search. I'm
Yeah.
surprised at how many people don't. Um, you know, a simple thing like, for example, a lot, obviously a lot of scams that go on in this day and age and stuff. And to me, I don't know about what you think about this. You give me your opinion, but I'm of the opinion that if you don't find any digital footprint on someone, for me, it's a little bit of a red flag, and it's something to address and just be open about. Say to them, look, I didn't find anything on you online. Why? Like, tell me why. Because I think everyone has a digital footprint of some sort, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it might be. But when there's nothing, I always get a little bit concerned. And I had this
Ye-
experience recently. Someone mentioned it to me, and I googled them, and there was nothing. And I'm like, to me, complete red flag.
I get that 100%. If I don't do this to my own dates just simply for the fact that I want to get to know them for who they
Mm,
are and not make assumptions based on their social media. Um, but yeah, most people have
mm.
some type of social media, some type of footprint. I have a client recently who we've been working on him getting one because he hates social media. And I get it. I don't like social media
Mm,
myself. I just feel like it's a narcissist playground these days. But, I'm on there for business and I do have my personal accounts as well. But he's trying to date and these women are trying to look him up and they are becoming very concerned
mm,
about going on a date with someone who they can't find anything on. And so there's nothing for them to reference. So, yeah, I do also agree that you should tell someone where you're going. If you
mm,
want to Google them ahead of time, be honest about it. Don't be sneaky about it. And just tell them, look, I just want to make sure that I'm staying safe. And I just want to know what I'm getting myself into because there are a lot of crazies out there.
yeah. And I got to share this experience as well. I think it's so important. I don't know if you know this in the UK. You might have seen actually when you were here. In the UK, they have this system where, and a lot of bars have this sign up where if you're on a date and you need help, you need assistance, you just go to the bar and you ask for Angela, and that's the code word to get assistance. But recently there was someone in the UK who's sort of become a little bit known as a swindler, especially in South Asian circles. And the thing is, I actually messaged this individual because they wanted to join our singles group. And I said, so long as you're going to be sincere, you can join, but I need to know, you need to guarantee me you're going to be a sincere person. You're going to be honest and truthful at all times. Never heard back. And there's part of me that feels a little bit bad. And even people have said to me, you've got to give people a second chance. And I do agree with that. But it turns out this person is still up to their old tricks. And has tried it on with other women in terms of swindling them. And I think to myself that this is why you just need to be a little bit more careful than we used to have to be. Um, but it warrants doing because, like you said, I mean, ideally, in an ideal world, I don't want to have to Google people. I really don't want to do that task. But for safety's sake, and protecting the people around you, because you just don't know who you're letting into your world. If you've got young nephews, nieces, or whatever else, or whatever it might be, your job is to keep everyone around you safe. Yourself first, of course, but everyone around you. And I think that to do it is just a prudent step to make sure that someone is who they say. That the only thing is are they who they say they are? That's the main thing. So long as they're who they say they are, I'm good with that.
I agree. I'm sure you've seen, I think it was Netflix that had that film,
Yeah,
The Tinder Swindler.
yeah,
Yeah, but I think it scared a lot of people. I think
yeah.
a lot of men and women both kind of were off put by there's a couple films out there actually that are very similar in that nature, and it's happening a lot. I hear men
Mm,
here say that they meet women on these dating apps and they have conversation and they even video chat with them to make sure they're real. And then they go to meet for a first date, and these ladies will ask for a Venmo payment for gas to get there. Or, yeah, they just start asking for money. 2 weeks
mm,
in, they're asking for money for rent. And it's disheartening, I think, to a lot of these guys when they're coming across that thinking, I thought they were genuinely interested in me, and now I'm realizing they're not. And
mm.
so it's happening to both men and women very equally, I think.
Yeah, no, it's true. There was one story. It's not a media story or anything, but something. A friend of a friend in the UK got swindled out of £50,000, and the person in question is a single mother, and the person who did the swindling really rubbed the salt in the wound as well, and said, "You know what? Ha ha! I got all your money. See you later." That's how they ended the interaction, and then that was it. And the thing is, as well, as we know, it's very hard to prove a crime. If you've given and handed over your money, it's very hard to prove a crime. So you just have to be so careful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, just don't give money to anyone. It just I don't
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. I have this rule. I say to people, like, if money comes up within the first 6 months, run. Right? It shouldn't be coming up. There's absolutely no reason on planet Earth there should be any exchange of money in the first 6 months. I just
I
don't see it.
agree.
I just think that that's just an immediate red flag run. It just shouldn't be happening at all. Although saying that, on our first date, my wife, I didn't have change for the car park machine, so she paid for me. Bless her.
I mean, it is a few pounds.
Yeah, but still, there's my advice, and then I do something like that. But no, it was just one of those things. I didn't have the change on me, so she did it. Bless her. But anyway, let's move away from the red flag stuff and back to the good stuff. So,
Hmm.
what are one or two other good secrets you can share with people, especially? And I think here's a couple of the most important and most common things that I hear people say. If there's someone I like, but I'm not sure if they're interested in me, what should I be doing? Um, and um, if I'm not sure how to ask someone out that I really like. So those are the two very common ones I hear. So
Mm.
for those two things, what would you say to someone that they can do to help themselves?
Take a deep breath, first of all. Calm yourself. A lot of times I do hear of guys getting very excited about meeting someone and being too eager. So while I don't want people to think that I'm trying to give tips on how to play the game, it's not really playing the game. It's just take a deep breath, relax, and let it unfold naturally. Don't force something faster than it needs to be. Take your time. Get to know them slowly. If you notice that she's not responding as fast as you respond, or, see what the tone is and try and follow along with where they're at. Meet them where they are, because maybe he or she needs a little bit more time to warm up to the idea of dating you. It doesn't mean ghosting is a huge problem. I know that. I really think we need to like learn how to communicate, to just simply say, it was really lovely to meet you, but I'm just not feeling that. But
Hmm.
best of luck. Whatever it is, it's just so simple. It's like 2 sentences long.
Yeah.
Um,
You
but
can put it
to
as a
just,
keyboard shortcut in your phone, so you don't even have to type it out. So it's just there.
yeah, I mean, I do that for my clients. I have a text smarter guide that I give them, and it gives them all of these cheat sheet style text messages that they can send out. And, a few of the pages are all about that initial date, how to ask for that first date. And there's different ways to go about it. You can be cute and cheesy about it. You have to go with where your personality is. If you are, a funny personality, then let that work for you. If you're more of a serious person, then just be honest and say, look, I'm really enjoying getting to know you. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in a first date. Are you comfortable with meeting face to face? Or, would you be more inclined to do a video chat first to get to know each other? It's okay to ask for what you want, ultimately, is what it comes down to. Don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
I like that. I really like that. Another question just popped into my head as well. Something I hear from guys a lot. I always had my own technique when it came to this kind of stuff, but I'd love to get your take. As a guy, now, what is the physical touch allowance on a first interaction? Now, what I mean by that as well, do you shake hands? Obviously, that's something I never did. But yeah, do you shake hands? Do you go for a hug? What would you say is the best thing? Like my thing was, I was always I am a very friendly person. It was always a gentle embrace and a kiss on the cheek. That was my always my thing. I love to let women know that I'm a safe person to be around, but that's just my nature. It was, anyways. It wasn't something I was doing forcing. It's just who I am and how I behave. Um, Never got a bad response. I always thought women, appreciated that. But for guys who are a little bit shy, they're not sure what to do, or they feel like it might come across a little bit contrived. What do you recommend to guys for that first meeting? What's the best way to interact with the date?
Right. Two things. One, ask permission if that's your style. If you are a hugger and you want to hug on a first meet, ask first. I like to hug. Is that okay? If they say no, then respect that. And two, be aware that everyone has a different flirting style. So, somebody like myself who is a physical flirt, I'm very similar to you, where I do like that hug and I like that touch. And sometimes I don't realize that I'm actually touching someone when I'm talking to them, which I try to be very aware of, very conscious of. But somebody who is more of a polite flirt, touch is not okay to them. They feel very violated when you touch them. Now, granted, we've been teaching people for years that on a date, if you have some minimal amount of touch, it creates connection. And it does. And it can have a nice pheromone exchange. But if that is not your flirting style, if you are a polite flirting style who doesn't believe in touch, and you know, um, you're not comfortable with that, and you are told by a dating expert or a YouTube video out there, to touch her arm or touch her shoulder, and you do that, or you put your hand on the small of her back, which is a very aggressive flirting move, it's going to feel creepy to her because you are uncomfortable. This is not a space that you normally live in. So, really understanding your own personal flirting style is going to be so important, because then you can lean into your comfort. If you're a traditional flirt or a sincere flirt or a playful flirt, whatever your flirting style is, I really suggest, first of all, find out what it is. and lean into that. So then that way, when you do flirt within your style, within your comfort zone, it feels natural and it's received really well. But again, if you are a touchy feely person, I really do suggest asking for permission before touching someone that you don't quite know yet.
Mm. I think people are a little bit more sensitive about it. I don't think I ever recall asking for anyone's permission. I used to just do it, and I don't think it ever went down badly.
Right.
But I think people kind of got that, that was my nature, and that I'm just a very friendly, gentle, cuddly giant type of person. So they kind of went with it. But that's good to know, because I do get guys asking me that a lot of the time, like, what's the best way to greet someone? And I think that is actually quite a it's a basic challenge, but it's a very interesting challenge, right? How do you say hi to someone you're interested in, right? It's easy if you're bumping into a friend or meeting a friend, so usually the guy's shoulder hug, sideways hug, all that kind of stuff, right? But on a date, it's a different thing. It's always a different, like, and everyone, like you said, responds to it differently as well. So it's quite tricky. And then what do you say to guys? We'll start rounding this off as well. But, because this has been beautiful, by the way. And I think a lot of guys and women as well are going to appreciate this. But what do you say to guys who are a bit useless at getting the second date? And what I mean by that as well is that I think there are a lot of guys out there that because they've never been taught, they don't know how to be proactive in progressing everything. And I think that there's a serious side to this as well, in that guys um have a slightly harder job, in that in this day and age we've been bombarded with so much stuff about the whole Me Too movement, and so much more aside from that as well. I find that a lot of guys are coming to me and telling me, like, I don't want to be overbearing, so I don't want to overstep the mark, make them feel uncomfortable. So they're finding it harder to um get that second date, because they're not sure how to say it, how to action it, how to make it happen. So what would you
Hmm.
say to someone who they've been on a date, things are going really well, at least they feel like things are going really well, they want that second date, but they're not sure how to proceed? What would you say?
So something that I do with my clients, which I know a lot of dating experts don't do, but I particularly do, is that I don't allow them to set up a second date on the first date. I ask them
Nice.
to not do
Okay. Oh,
that.
very different. Right. Interesting. Tell me more.
So it's okay to end the date with saying, it was really nice getting to know you. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, or something along those lines. Please get home safely. And then it's still okay to do that, 20-minute later, I hope you got home okay. It was great to meet you. Talk soon. Then give it a little time, because people need processing time. They need to kind of mull over, how do they feel about you? And that goes both ways. And then reach out again to say, hey, I just wanted to let you know I really enjoyed getting to know you. I would love a second opportunity to take you out if you're up for it. What do you think? So you're not just asking for the date, but you're asking for kind of a temperature check from them of like, how are you feeling? Are we on the same page? If not, that's cool. Just let me know. But
I like that. I think that's a different approach, actually, and I think it's worth trying. If the other approach hasn't worked for you, or it's backfired on you, then try it. I think either could work, and it probably depends. It's individualistic, right? Depends on the person as well. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, mine was always, yeah, I'm getting that second date straight away. It's booked in before we even leave, departing, and one of our couples who met through our singles group as well. A wonderful success story. They're married. They've got a kid now as well. And
Mm.
they were telling us on the first date as well. She mentioned after the first date she wasn't that interested. The only reason she went on the second date, because he'd already planned everything and he'd already done everything. She was like, "Oh, I feel like I have to go now." But she said she loved the date, and they're married now, and doing very well. Like I said, their first child as well. So yeah, it's a different approach, but I like it. I think I 100% think it could work as well. If you feel more comfortable doing that, do that. And
Mhm.
even for yourself, give it time to simmer, because I think some guys, this is where I think this is a prudent approach, actually, is because some guys, ladies, and I think we just have to tell you the truth, that some guys are a little bit overzealous because they met someone they like, find attractive, and they can say things they don't necessarily mean. And so even as a guy, it might be worth just stepping away. Did you really like her? Did you feel
Right.
genuinely feel for her as well? take a moment, process it, and then do the second date. So I think there's sage advice in that as well.
I can't tell you how many times I've been on dates, on first dates or second dates, where the guy is planning our future because he's gotten so overly zealous about it that
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
like, I want to tell him, like, slow your roll. I know that this isn't realistic, but like, can we come back down to earth, please?
Yes, gentlemen out there, please don't do that. It's so easy for us to do that, but you have to give it time. You've got to curb yourself, rein yourself in. This is where you need a good wingman to remind you, slow your ass down, fella. kind of because yes, that's one of the top complaints I get from women as well. It's that love bombing, isn't it? It's the love bombing
Mhm.
aspect. It's just like getting too
It's too
too
much.
cozy too early. Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, Andrea, I have to say this has been a lovely, lovely podcast. I've thoroughly enjoyed having you on. Please tell everyone more about you as well. Like, do you do a free consult? If anyone wants to reach out to you, how can they reach out to you? Tell everyone about your book. I will include all the links when I publish the actual recorded episode of this as well. So, but just please tell everyone so where they can find out more about you and if they want to connect with you.
Yeah, definitely. You can actually find me at datesmartersexier.com.
Nice. I like that.
And my book is called Get the Girl, and it's on Amazon. And I also host my own podcast called Date Smarter Sexier, where we interview. Right now, we are working on dating, but season 2 was all about sex. So it gets a little
Nice.
raw. Yeah. But yeah, I do free consultations. So anyone can message me. And you can find me on social media and message me that way, or you can message through, my website. You can set up an appointment to talk with me one-on-one because I do all the things. I have the online courses, the group coaching, the private coaching. It's just any way that I can show up to
Mhm.
be supportive so that people can really be a better version of themselves when they're out there dating. That's what's really important. So, however they can find me, message me, and I will get back to you. I will respond. I am that person.
Well, can you just tell us again? By the way, what was it called? Your website name? Date Smart. Was it?
Datesmartersexier.com.
I feel like I needed to do a Joey there. Yeah, baby.
I love it for sure.
Well, it genuinely has been a pleasure. And to anyone listening, if you've watched the live, thank you for being with us. If you've just joined us at the end, don't worry, I'm going to upload all the audio to all the podcast platforms and including Spotify video as well. It will be there. And I just wanted to say thank you, and once again, thank you to the lovely Andrea. And how do you say your last name, brother? Did I say it right? LaRosa.
LaRosa, yeah. Mhm.
Yay! Thank you for being an incredible guest. It's been a pleasure having you on. No doubt I'll get you on
Thank
again in the
you.
future. For
Thank
all those
you.
hopeless romantics who want to get the girl, get the guy. And yeah, so thank you again. And to everyone else, you've been listening to the Feel Inspired podcast. My name's Amit Sodha, and I will probably see you on the very next episode. So thank you again. I'll end the live and stay with me, Andrea, and I'll catch you everyone soon. Take care.